NOSFERATU.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon. Sometimes the most painful part of getting sick is the getting better part. Waiting on hold for an appointment, sitting in crowded waiting rooms, standing in line at the pharmacy, that's painful. Amazon One Medical and Amazon Pharmacy remove those painful parts of getting better with things like 24/7 virtual visits and prescriptions delivered to your door. Thanks to Amazon Pharmacy and Amazon One Medical, healthcare just got less painful.
Hold on to your butts.
We are changing the course of history as we see it. That is what Wesley demands.
Now this affects Iris. Iris, where are you?
What you feel only matters to you. I do not entertain hypotheticals. The world as it is vexing enough.
Iris, I have a tip for you.
Don't take drugs!
Or whatever movies with Wesley and Iris.
What up and welcome to Or Whatever Movies. I'm your co-host Iris, and I'm here with my older brother.
Wesley.
Now do the ragged breath. Today we're talking a movie from 2024, not 1922. The remake of the horror classic, our fourth Robert Eggers film, NOSFERATU.
Not only the fourth film of Robert Eggers that we're discussing, his fourth film.
So we're up to speed on Robert Eggers with NOSFERATU.
Which is, would you say, basically Dracula?
Basically Dracula. See, people say that it's loosely based on Bram Stoker's 1897 novel, but it's pretty much a direct ripoff. Although these days, it's not really a ripoff since Dracula's in the public domain.
And thus, are you a traitor in supporting NOSFERATU, which was famously squashed, almost obliterated by Bram Stoker's widow Florence for, I don't know what we're calling it back then, copyright infringement or whatever, and almost all copies of the 1922 Murnau film were destroyed. They discovered some janky prints, which is why NOSFERATU still exists and why we have a 2024 version over 100 years later.
Yes, it was cinema's boon that all the copies of NOSFERATU were not destroyed. However, the ones that were within the reach of Florence Balcom Stoker, Bram Stoker's widow, were destroyed. And the people who assisted her were like, yeah, nah, we're not going to the Netherlands and the Czech Republic and chasing down these extant copies of the film, which are the ones ostensibly that survived.
And yet, like the Count, whether it be Dracula or Orlok, these undead prints found their way slowly across the Atlantic and infected the rest of the world.
The German NOSFERATU was not the first movie version or ripoff of Dracula. There was a Hungarian novel, there was also a Hungarian film, which we sadly don't have the prints of anymore.
And so you never answered my question, whether or not you're a traitor to the Dracula legacy by jumping on the NOSFERATU bandwagon, because you would think, like The Last Voyage of the Demeter or any of the Dracula ripoffs, it being in the public domain now, you would think that it would all just help. It would all just be another feather in the cap, is that the expression, of Dracula legend? But only from people like us is there any mention whatsoever of Dracula in the NOSFERATU conversation. There's no based on the works of Dracula. Are there? Does NOSFERATU further Dracula?
Yes, it furthers Dracula. This is the mythos being introduced to another generation through an auteur filmmaker. This is exactly what keeps the undead alive. Even if there's just the briefest of mention and credit given, the filmmakers know where they're coming from.
Yeah, and it's like a Marvel DC crossover, because Nicholas Hoult shows up in this NOSFERATU movie, and Kelly Ray says, him again? How many vampire movies you want to be in?
He's a little bit typecast. This is also the fourth 4 out of 4 for Willem Dafoe.
I think 3. I don't think he was in The Vivitch. Definitely Lighthouse, definitely The Northman, and this one.
Oh, gotcha. So a cast of the usual suspects. So I'm not sure what that connection was. What was the basis that he cast Nicholas Hoult on? Was it because of his performance in Renfield?
No, I'm not exactly sure why, other than he has a baby face for sure, and he maybe looks the part of a hapless London clerk realtor dude. He's like the kid that you send abroad because Agent Buttcrack or Realtor Buttcrack or whatever his name was doesn't want to do it. So, we're going to send the kid all the way to Transylvania. That's crazy. I'm not going up in the mountains to meet some old dude.
Did you call him Agent Buttcrack?
Yeah.
I assume you're referring to Ernock.
Yeah, you mean
who is
Canuck, the butt crack boss.
Is that because we got so much butt crack in that satanic scene?
Initially. And honestly, I thought that was Willem Dafoe. And I was like, this is the most Willem Dafoe introduction to a Willem Dafoe character I've ever seen. Like, that's got to be, it's not him. It's Canuck.
That's not the first time we saw Eric Knock. We saw him in the legal firm.
The agent office or whatever. That's what I'm saying. But I thought, because we saw him from behind and I didn't know it was him, because he seemed upstanding and not butt cracky in dispatching Herr
Hutter.
We're going with Hutter. Are we not Harker? Okay. In dispatching Hutter on his business, official business.
I mean, speaking of on-the-nose casting, really? Bill Skarsgård?
Okay. Bill Skarsgård, while an obvious choice on paper for Orlok, because he can do the hunched-over, lanky, Max Schreck original Nosferatu kind of vibe with the fingers. All that makes perfect sense. But he disappeared into this Orlok in the way that I was hoping and frankly kind of expecting that Nicolas Cage would have disappeared into Longlegs. Whereas I don't think that was the case for Nicolas Cage. If you had put Orlok without context on the screen, I would not have been able to pick out Bill Skarsgård. You think?
You wouldn't have sat down and said, Bill, is that you?
Right? Nope, not at all. And so they're using his attributes. Yes, he's long and lanky and he's very young, and I guess can be transformative that way. But to his credit, he wasn't like, hey, you got to put me, I need to be recognizable and visible. He is completely buried, 6 hours of makeup, trained with an opera coach to lower his voice a full octave. And I don't know, he was pretty deep in there. It was like Charlize Theron monster territory as far as I'm concerned.
He was pretty deep in there. Did the opera coach teach him to roll his R's?
No, that's natural, man. If you've got any ethnicity in you, you can roll the R's. Do it. Ruffles have ridges. Hey, you're getting better.
Ruffles. Yeah, well, I've been practicing. Paloma's so good. I'm just trying to keep up with her.
We're all good.
What, Mexicans?
I'm just saying rolling the R's is effortless, and I don't know why you can't do it.
I've been working on it. Maybe if I had the opera coach. Okay, I mean, yeah, he disappeared. So Orlok takes over. Bill Skarsgård's buried under there. I think the mustache helps.
Yeah.
But you can see it in his eyes.
You can a little bit.
Those wonderfully terrifying buggy eyes.
There were a couple times he turned his head and I was like, oh, okay, I can see it. But the mustache does a lot.
Yeah, very concealing. What was the deal with the statue that looked at Hutter in the dining room? The dining hall?
So I was thinking that there was a lot of Bram Stoker's Dracula in this movie, the old tricks, because famously Coppola resorted to 100-year-old movie tricks and didn't try to do anything that would make his movie feel too modern, except for, the Japanese costuming and all that stuff, which makes it look very modern to me. But that was not from Bram Stoker's Dracula. That was from Interview with the Vampire, the Neil Jordan movie from 30 years ago, where the statue looks at Louis and turns its head. It felt like vampire tropey stuff to me, where he's just seeing the world in Orlok's different way. It's like a different dimension where the rules don't apply and kind of anything goes. In the Interview with the Vampire case, he had just been turned and started to see the world in a completely different light, where shadows played tricks and statues seemed to move and everything was vibrant. So that's just what kind of, look, we're in Orlok's castle, water drips upside down and people cling to the ceiling, and those fires don't asphyxiate anybody in the giant fireplace, and there are like no windows. It was like the Kardashian house or something.
What, no ventilation in Kardashian houses?
Last I heard, they lived in this mausoleum-style white vault that was just all bare and stark and scary. At least Kim, one of them.
Ever since our discussion on Nope, available at orwhatevermovies.com or wherever you get podcasts, I've decided that there is a Nope moment in every scary movie for me. And when the statue turns and looks at Hutter in the dining hall, that would have been my second Nope moment, where I'd been like, peace, I'm out of here.
Oh, right.
I'm not sticking around for what is to come. What was my first Nope moment in Nosferatu?
In like a supernatural kind of way?
Yeah, well, in like there's something very, very wrong
Was
here.
it the staircase?
Ooh, wait. No, what?
Was it when he's following Orlok up the stairs and turns the corner and Orlok is gone? He was 2 steps ahead of him, and now he's deep in the room, backlit by the giant bonfire fireplace?
That was the funnest stuff. Those were the funnest tricks of Nosferatu. He'd be in one place,
Right.
and then he's next to you pouring your wine.
Right. Or behind you. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And you're like, what?
But he's got the shadow representative in the curtains and stuff like that.
Right.
And all that stuff is neat, but in a way was very cinematic and movie-like to me because it was a camera
Super
trick.
cinematic.
Like he's out of frame. We don't see how he does it or whatever. He's just there, and it's like it's fun, but I don't know how immersive it is.
It's definitely disorienting and is a great cinematic way to explore one of Dracula's talents. I get the shadow play, like that's also very cinematic, but also entirely a Nosferatu invention, right? Because the original Count Dracula doesn't cast a shadow. He's immaterial. He doesn't cast reflection. He doesn't cast a shadow. It never quite made it into the novel, but supposedly when you photograph him, you either get no image or a skeleton.
A skeleton?
And if you try and paint him, yes. And if you try and paint him, he'll never look like him. He'll always look like someone else.
Wow. How do I not recall
You
that?
can't capture it. These were part of Bram's rules in his notes, but they didn't ever quite make it into the novel.
Oh, interesting. See, Iris is the scholar. So writer-director Eggers said that if he ever had to film a contemporary movie with a car in it or a cell phone, he would just die. Like my involvement in like present time cinema, that's just not a thing. I want to go back to old times when at the time this was, the Dracula story at least, relevant and timely. That's weird.
So how do you take the timeliness into account?
I don't really. This is so otherworldly. It might as well be a world where statues regularly move. A fantasy world where you can live in that crazy drafty castle with not a window in sight. It's all like openings in the mortar and brickwork or whatever, and giant fires that fill the room with acrid smoke and do a really good job of lighting. But there was nowhere comfy to sit. It was crazy in that place. You fall down those stairs, there's no attendants to find you or whatever. He does a thing like, oh, all the servants have retired or whatever. But there's no servants. It's just him teleporting from room to room and in and out of windows.
Yeah, that certainly explains better how he's able to be both master and servant at the same time. If you can just teleport, if you can just dematerialize and materialize in another location, sure, you can be master, servant, and host.
Right? And in the sense that this was originally conceived, again, we're going to Dracula, which was the 1890s, as a modern concept, then Mina and Lucy, at least as portrayed in Bram Stoker's and possibly in this other incarnation of Dracula, Powers of Darkness, were more sensual. And I'm not sure if this applies to 1838 Germany and later Transylvania, although I think that, what was her name? What was her name? Ellen. Lenny/Ellen.
Yes, the Mina character.
Lily Rose Depp talked about the role of women. Nothing was expected of them but to be subservient housewives and proper and demure, and her character is much more sensual and free and expressive of sensuality and honesty and rawness and all this stuff, saying the things maybe she wasn't supposed to say. But then modern me watched it and was like, dude, this chick is drama and you can tell. And she gets kind of hysterical. And I was like, he is just looking for a chance to run. But no, he's like, he was the traditional one. Like, no, I love you. And whatever craziness you're going through, I will see you through it.
Nicholas Holtz Hutter, the ever devoted husband.
Yeah. He said later on, what does he say? You're the hope. You are our salvation.
I think that was Willem Dafoe.
Okay, but she's patient zero. How is she? So she's the curse bearer. She's the one who brought this nightmare. And I wasn't really sure why we were catering to Lily Rose Depp, except as part of the problem.
Well, So yes, you're right in that she was part of the problem. She was the one that summoned Orlok from the depths of wherever he lay. But she was also their only hope. She was not only part of the solution, she was the only solution.
I guess.
At least according to the Van Helsing character. And Lily Rose Depp, also a little bit on the nose casting choice, being the daughter of Johnny Depp, who of course played Dracula in Dark Shadows.
Not Dracula, but it wasn't Orlok either. It was, I have to look up his name.
In Dark Shadows? So you did see that?
I did see Dark Shadows, unfortunately, but he had a different name.
Oh, it's such a clutch off-season pickup, Dave.
I was worried we'd bring back the same team.
I meant those blackout motorized shades.
Blinds.com made it crazy affordable to replace our old blinds.
Hard to install?
No, it's easy. I installed these and then got some for my mom. She talked to a design consultant for free and scheduled a professional measure and install.
Hall of Fame son.
They're the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings in the world.
Blinds.com is the GOAT.
Go to Blinds.com for 40% off site-wide. Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
I got it right here. Oh, Barnabas Collins? So not Dracula?
Right. It was like a parody.
Does he play Ichabod Crane in Sleepy Hollow?
He does.
And is he the demon barber of Fleet Street?
He is.
In Sweeney Todd?
Yes.
Boy, covered a lot of ground.
I guess
Johnny
so.
Depp.
Yeah.
But Monica Bellucci also in the first, not in the first, in Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yes.
That was just a Tim Burton connection.
I mean,
what are we talking about?
When we get in the goth world, there's going to be some crossover. And Willem Dafoe is the captain of that crazy ship. Robert Eggers, as we know, is very distinctly visual, I suppose. And there was insanity going on in the lighthouse in particular. But the Vivitch, his first feature, was very stark and very little effects. And Nosferatu in the same way, almost no CG. Obviously, there were tricks employed for the, but in terms of sets, locations, costumes, all very practical. And I wondered how you felt, because Bram Stoker's Dracula wasn't a CG heavy spectacle, but it was lavish and lush and bloody and vibrant, and not really the case here. Like, I think Orlok wanted to come to Germany to get some culture and some life, because Transylvania wasn't cutting it. The guy needed a decorator, and it didn't seem... And so, look, I appreciate that, but there's something about the starkness that felt a little bit hollow to me. Not fake, but it didn't seem to have depth. It almost seemed too sparse. And I'm wondering if that's a prejudice that I carry over from 30 years ago, Bram Stoker's Dracula, or, I mean, it's bleak and Dickensian. So I came in, I was like, this is kind of dull and lifeless, which I guess Count Orlok is supposed to be. And then I switched and was sublimely happy for a few minutes when they showed the Borgo Pass or whatever, and the crazy Gothic castle in Prague where they filmed other vampire movies. And I was like, wait, I'm looking at it wrong. This is exactly what this is supposed to be. And then it kind of continued to feel empty for me and bleak. And I wonder if that was like this vampire despair, like the emptiness of eternity that was on me, or if you felt that this movie was underwhelming visually. In a way that I can argue at times the Vivitch was. It was real, but it was bleak and colorless and kind of not thrilling in that way. What's your take?
Bleak, desaturated, colorless, remote, isolated, all of those things from The Witch carried over to Nosferatu, and it seems entirely part of Eggers' aesthetic. That being said, when we're in Germany, and especially when we're filming the kids, it was heavily saturated. It was warm, gas lights, like the kids had rosy cheeks, the candles are on the Christmas tree. It's Christmastide and all that. So there was a definite contrast that he was trying to make between what I assumed to just be a very simple life and death.
Sure. It's like Soderbergh, or the trope now where you go to Mexico and everything is orange, and you go to other countries and go to Germany and everything is like blue. But in America, everything is vibrant. And you're right. There were Christmas lights, and it was all romantic. So much so that they felt composed. I think they boned in their friend's house.
Yeah, that was so weird how they like sank down in the foyer.
Yeah, they got to Mackin. It's like, really? At your friend's house? Okay. But then I think Orlok brought the darkness because he definitely ate those kids in shadow.
Well, yeah. I mean, that was that was the worst.
What, you mean you didn't just brush off Count Orlok eating 2 little girls in their own bedroom or whatever?
And what was so crazy about it was still hard to feel sympathy for Friedrich. Not that he was such a jerk or whatever, but it just felt hollow, even though he lost his wife and his 2 daughters. I still somehow felt removed from him when he was in the mausoleum, like saying, "My girls." And then did I kind of gather the pieces correctly in that he like did it with his dead wife, with his dead cholera like plague wife?
Well, he was all up in there. And is that not that killed him? Did he? There was a lot of things where people boned themselves to death in this movie.
Well, he clearly was already stricken, right? Because he had the boil or whatever on his face and he barfs on her casket. But then he grabs her, and when the band of heroes come, her like leg and stocking is like hanging over, and her dead body is straddling his dead body in the coffin.
I think that's what was implied. And that wasn't even the most awkward sex scene in this movie. It was definitely the close where it was like crunchy. And she boned him to death. But that led me to this idea that the Van Helsing character in Willem Dafoe, or whatever his name was, and the Harker character, whatever his name was, they were a little bit Indiana Jonesy in Raiders of the Lost Ark in that they didn't really do anything to affect the plot. They were just kind of there, and the problem resolved itself.
It was so funny how they were like, "You stay here and us men will take care of this." And Hutter's like, I'm going to protect you and I'm going to end this once and for all. And they storm off and then all they do is kill the Hawkins character, the Hawkins Renfield Knock character.
Canuck, yeah.
Very ineffective.
Yeah, it wasn't ever going to be good. If they were going to have to fight him in like a battle at sunrise or something, it wasn't going to go well. Because Nicholas Hoult was like, "I won't wait. I'm going to do it at night. I'm going to go after the monster at night." And Willem Dafoe is like, "Good idea. Let's go do that." It's like, what are you thinking? That's the worst idea I've ever heard.
He was leading Hutter away because he knew that Lily Rose Depp had to do her business in order to save humanity. What was funny to me was just how gleeful he was when Hutter put it all together. He was like doing a little leprechaun dance and clicking his heels. He was so happy.
That's Willem Dafoe. I don't think he was acting.
And he's like lighting fire and being all dramatic and
oh man,
that was really good. But man, if you turned Nosferatu into a drinking game and then took a shot every time that Willem Dafoe said "cock crow," you'd be so drunk. I was like, please stop saying cock crow. Switch it up, Willem Dafoe. Sunrise.
I can hear
break
him
of
saying
dawn.
it in his voice.
Every time I said it, it was so cringy. I don't know why. It was the only thing that felt caricaturish about the
But this
Van
is,
Helsing
look, this
character.
is not funny. This is not enjoyable drinking game.
Was
this is
it
not
not?
frat
Was it
party.
not?
No, well, no, it's not supposed to be.
I saw this in the theater, and there were a lot of people laughing.
Well, that's the problem, I think. They're calling this the ultimate in Gothic horror. Bill Skarsgård saying that he never wants to play. Bill Skarsgård. This is the most graphic child killing that I can recall for Bill Skarsgård since he ate that. Remember when he ate the kid as Pennywise and then waved to one of the kids with the kid's dead arm? and this was the one that said that he scared himself, that he never wants to play anyone this evil again. And it was supposed to be horrific and gothic and gripping, and it's kinda not. You're kind of removed, and it's kind of funny. And Willem Dafoe says "cock crow" a lot, and Agent Buttcrack is there, and you're like, wow, real commitment, but also
Agent Buttcrack's like eating the heads off pigeons.
So this was that was the worst part for me. You don't kill pigeons, but was supposed to be the first Robert Eggers movie. He's for over 10 years, this script has been around. He staged a production of the silent Nosferatu in high school, and it doesn't feel serious to me. And I'm trying to pin down why that is, why it feels like a hustle when Lily Rose Depp is delivering these heartfelt monologues. And when she does the thing where she's in the throes of passion or whatever, rolls her eyes back and arches her back and flops around and stuff, it feels not scary. But it's so he talked about Dracula Dead and loving it, the Leslie Nielsen being a big influence on this movie on what not to do. Like they're like, blood, do not go up to the castle and stuff. And he's like, see, that's lame. And that's what I'm going to try to avoid. But in trying to make it as real and practical as possible, then it feels like a performance and not like she's being gripped by sexy demons or whatever. And long takes. And so you could kind of feel the artifice at times. You didn't get this sense?
Well, Robert Eggers' Nosferatu pulls no punches. I mean, they go for it. And there are genuinely cringe-worthy moments where I wanted to close my eyes, but I couldn't stop looking.
Good or bad cringe, though? Like meant to be horrifying?
Yeah, like horrifying moments, like when he's eating the head off the pigeon. Or even like the opening scene that was very indicative of this kind of spiritual rape and the rats eating Anne or whatever her name was. Like those were like, I was reeling back in my seat, clenching my teeth, like looking with one eye. So they're going for it. And they know that when you have horror like that, you need to have those pressure release moments. And I think that they chose those very consciously.
Really? Intentional, huh?
Yeah, the joke, like, I think that she should sleep in corsets. It's going to help her feel better. It's like, okay, that's a ridiculous male notion. Or like the Inglourious Basterds pipe that Willem Dafoe pulls out. Out of nowhere.
Wasn't that I think that maybe it was Sherlock Holmes or something. That's like a joke where when he pontificates, he pulls out a giant pipe, and then so another character tries to one-up him and pulls out an even more ridiculous pipe, and then they go back and forth pulling out.
It was a ridiculous pipe.
Yeah.
So I don't think those things were unintentional. I think they were entirely premeditated. Robert Eggers talks about how important it was for them to be authentic, even down to Count Orlok's shoe leather. That being said, he's aware that authenticity doesn't make a movie better. It simply gives his team that North Star to aim toward. And I think that it was really clear what they were aiming for, that they were aiming for serious horror.
Interesting perspective. A little bit of a release valve with some levity now and again, because we are all movie viewers and watchers looking for a fun experience, even if part of that is being scared. Very interesting, because you're right. They did go for it. Everything practical as much as possible. Real fire, real rats, real maggots. That line about about the corsets. Emma Corrin and Lily Rose Depp talked about how they wanted to just like nap for half a second, but they were so strapped into those corsets, and their wig was enmeshed with those elaborate hats and junk, that they just kind of had to lean on stuff to rest, because you can't sleep in a corset. They said they could never really be out of character or could never leave that role or that mindset because you're in it. Man. 6 hours of makeup for poor Bill Skarsgård. And so once you're in the commitment, so what I'll say to close is that once you're in the commitment, you can't get out of it for better or worse. Because I, once upon a time, read the entirety of the Harry Potter book series out loud. And I committed to the voices. And not Brendan Gleeson's, but my version of Mad Eye Moody. He spoke like this, and he was very invested in Harry's future. And then, at one point, Moody has like a 6-page diatribe or monologue, and I was like this the whole time for Moody. And once he gets talking in this movie, like Eyes Wide Shut, when Nicole Kidman seductively speaks like, you're like, come on, let's move it. Orlok had to complete his dialogue. And I was like, man, let's get moving. It's why this movie is 2 hours and 30 minutes. But if nothing else, they all committed, that's for sure.
Wow. 2 hours and 30 minutes. It flew by. because I was committed, I admit, I really enjoyed Nosferatu. I had that moment in the theater where I didn't want it to end. And those are fewer and farther between these days, these years. And I really enjoyed this one, although I'm not exactly sure that that was Robert Eggers' intention, nor is it ever his intention for us to walk away feeling like, I really enjoyed that film. But he certainly wants to get under our skin. And I think Nosferatu succeeds. It succeeds on many levels.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't change my rating. This is, for me, an all right film. But again, it was crushed under the burden of expectation. I'm not sure that this is his best film. He's definitely got something to say, and I want to see more from him. But I've had qualms with all of them. As you recall, The Vivitch, Northman, not my favorite. The Lighthouse, strangely, was the most gonzo, and so I was kind of the most on board. That there's no possible way that movie could be like, this is serious top to bottom. And I do think that Nosferatu was meant more to be, we're in a constant state of terror and uncertainty, and it wasn't. We got some comedy in there. So there's more to come, I'm sure. He's a very young guy who has a vision, only 4 films under his belt. I'm sure Willem Dafoe will be in the next one, and it'll be weird and dark and gothic, but it will be good. Will it be great?
You're still holding out for Robert Eggers' great movie. Okay. So you got an all right from Wes and a good from Iris. And for those who are waiting on tenterhooks to know what my first nope moment in Nosferatu was, it was the carriage. When the carriage door swings open, I would have been like, nope, peace.
Oh, when the carriage is sideways and it comes to claim him?
Yeah, nope. Bye. And that's our discussion on Nosferatu 2024. If you enjoyed this discussion, check out 3 others on Robert Eggers Films at orwhatevermovies.com or wherever you get podcasts. And Happy New Year.
Hey, heard you like podcasts. Well, check out Dollar Bets. 2 sports guys with faces for radio, betting live money against each other on air. That's Dollar Bets with a Z. Find us on the Winner's Edge.
Ever thought about starting your own podcast?
Do you have a business or a message you want to share with the world?
Well, now it's easier than ever with Electricast. Hi, I'm Mark Netter.
And I'm Peter Rafelson. We're the founders of Electricast Media.
Whether you want to start a new podcast or already have one, join Electricast to grow your audience, monetize your content, and build your community.
With our simple sign-up, you get free promotion, world-class analytics, premium ads, and personal support.
Go to electricast.com and join our community today.
Electricast. Transform your influence.
Electricast. Electricast.